outlaw.
The neon above Nashville's lower Broadway hums like a tuning fork, but today the vibration isn't coming from pedal steel strings or a blown bass amp. It's the ghostly echo of spinning roundhouse kicks no tourist expects from gray-haired troubadours. For decades, fans assumed outlaw country got its fire solely from dime store whiskey and parking lot knuckle-ups. Yet a hidden lineage of black belts, golden gloves medals, and dojo bruises runs beneath the rhinestones like a second bloodstream. Pretend you're strolling past Tootsies, boots sticking to the floor, when a rumor elbows you. The singers on that vintage jukebox could fold a barstool bully faster than a capo change. Now the night's entire soundtrack feels charged, like someone plugged a Telecaster into a lightning bolt. First to materialize through the swirl of cigarette haze is Willie himself, braids swinging like twin lengths of soft rope ready for joint locks. Somewhere between late-night poker and sunrise bus calls, the red-headed stranger earned a fifth-degree belt in the Korean hybrid art Gongkwon Yusul, all while most folks his age were swapping lawn care tips. His belt wasn't honorary either. Instructors recall the octogenarian crawling across sweat-slick mats to demonstrate break falls to 20-year-olds, lecturing them that a good ukemi saves as many careers as a good agent. One Austin studio owner swears Willie once warmed up a vocal take by rattling off 40 knuckle push-ups on balled fists, then nailed the high harmony in a single breath. The man's lungs might run on herbal vapors, but his core is forged from reverse hook drills. Standing beside him in a rhinestone-splattered jumpsuit is Elvis Presley, forever frozen in fan memory as the king of the hip shake, yet twice as obsessed with karate as he ever was with peanut butter sandwiches. By the early 70s, he held a 7th-degree black belt under Kang Rhee and loved the dojo so much he installed tatami mats in Graceland's basement. Roadies recall midnight rehearsals morphing into Kata marathons, the king obliterating pine boards while backing singers practiced harmonies. His signature stage move, slashing forearm across microphone, mirrored a Kenpo ridge hand strike he drilled thousands of times. One Vegas security guard tells a hushed tale of an unruly gambler who tried sprinting toward the stage. Elvis snapped into a horse stance, the intruder froze, and the show rolled on like nothing happened. It wasn't hypnotism. It was threat assessment born from bruised forearms. Discipline doesn't always sprout from peace, sometimes it's minted inside government-issue boots. Johnny Cash spent 4 Cold War years intercepting Soviet Morse code for the Air Force, and while the official records mention radio antennas, off-the-books hand-to-hand drills filled those long German nights. Cash learned how a single hip throw could drop a larger man, how a front choke feels on the windpipe, and how focusing on wrist lock steadies shaky nerves. Later, when the pills bit too hard and the spotlight felt like interrogation lamps, he centered himself the same way. Slow breath, weight on the balls of his feet, mind scanning for openings no paparazzi could see. Chris Christopherson outdid even that. West Point graduate, Army Ranger tab, helicopter pilot, Golden Gloves boxer. Long before he wrote Me and Bobby McGee, he was slipping jabs under a drill sergeant's whistle, deflecting loneliness with left hooks. A Nashville publisher once mocked his raspy demo tape, so Chris challenged the clerk to 3 rounds at a downtown gym. The clerk declined. The record contract appeared a week later. Turns out meter and footwork share the same heartbeat. If barracks bunks were ring corners, prison yards served as gritty octagons. Merle Haggard's San Quentin Stay is folk canon. But less sung is how the Bakersfield rebel joined the penitentiary boxing squad explicitly to avoid the knife fights that flared near the laundry rooms. By his own admission, Merle learned to pivot on gravel, to keep elbows glued to ribs, and to read an opponent's fear like a bridge cord. A warden once joked Haggard was the only inmate who could duck a hook and hit a high C in the same motion. When he walked out on parole, he carried 3 gifts: scarred knuckles, a pawnshop guitar, and a promise to trade fists for verses. Parking lot legends continue as the mid-career crew rolls in. Waylon Jennings, father of outlaw swagger, started taking private boxing lessons after a broken hand threatened to derail touring income. He wrapped fists in athletic tape each morning, not because he planned to fight, but because the ritual reminded him to keep verses tight. Jab, jab, cross, rhyme. Billy Ray Cyrus, forever tattooed in pop culture by one swiveling hip, found karate in a Kentucky strip mall, originally for cardio, then for control, over a life suddenly swarmed by hangers-on. Dwight Yoakam slipped into downtown LA Muay Thai gyms between film takes, determined that shin conditioning would toughen up stage presence. Trainers still laugh about the lanky cowpoke asking whether a round kick could be timed to a shuffle beat. The road only gets wilder when towering Trace Adkins arrives, shoulders blocking the exit sign. An ex-wife's bullet once ripped through his lungs, and after surgeons stitched him up, he swapped bourbon for Krav-style gun disarm drills. Crew gossip says he keeps a blue rubber training pistol in his dressing room wardrobe, practicing wrist redirects between vocal warm-ups. Tanya Tucker, queen of the Desert Rasp, punches focus mitts so hard trainers wear hockey gloves. She credits kickboxing for resetting her breath control after late-night tequila sessions. Clint Black stayed quieter, but monitor techs recall Taekwondo jump kicks echoing through amphitheater corridors long after sound check. He claimed mastering a spinning hook felt like nailing a shuffle groove. Turn, snap, land, smile. Hollywood crossovers add cinematic flash. Guitar-slinging Jerry Reed discovered karate on Burt Reynolds' film sets. Rumor claims he shattered a production dummy's jaw during Smokey and the Bandit 2 rehearsals, then wrote a novelty tune about it. Glenn Campbell, the velvet-voiced host of shiny television specials, practiced Shotokan basics in Vegas hotel gyms, swearing front stance lunges steadied his notoriously intricate 16th note tremolo picking. Charlie Pride, one of country's first black superstars, boxed semi-pro in the 50s, and he kept a speed bag near his songwriting desk because timing belongs in both hooks and hooks. Steve Earle's post-rehab resurrection took shape on MMA mats that reeked of mat burn and redemption. Teenage wrestlers choked him 10 times an hour until ego bled out, and he later said tapping felt like signing a peace treaty with himself. Even the fictional cowboys carried real skills. John Schneider, forever Bo Duke, mastered judo shoulder throws while shooting low-budget action flicks in the 80s. When he pivoted back to country charts, he kept the mats in his Tennessee barn, teaching crew members falls so touring injuries stayed low. Tom Wopat followed suit, dabbling in weapons kata for Broadway roles, once slicing open a rehearsal dummy with a wooden Bakken-turned guitar prop. During a reunion show, the pair demonstrated a choreographed kata, the crowd assuming it was dance choreography. Nobody realized it could disable a purse snatcher in 2 seconds. And then there's Hank Williams Jr., whose reputation for beer can chaos hides a surprisingly technical streak. After tumbling off Ajax Mountain in '75 and shattering his skull, Bocephus rebuilt himself with fierce physical therapy featuring boxing agility ladders and karate balance drills. He credited sidekicks for restoring the coordination needed to yank wild vibrato from a battered throat. One Montana night, a biker challenged him backstage. Witnesses say Hank's lead hook landed quicker than a snare hit and twice as loud, ending the scuffle before security arrived. Some surprises lurk deeper in the liner notes. Dwight Yoakam's obsession with perfecting switch kicks left him sporting bruises that matched his denim. One evening, he exited rehearsal with a shiner under wraparound sunglasses. Tabloids blamed an overzealous fan. Insiders swear it was a mistimed elbow from his own sparring partner. Meanwhile, Clint Black once calmed a rowdy Illinois tailgate by demonstrating a textbook axe kick on an empty beer cooler, splitting the plastic lid so clean the promoter framed it. These hidden disciplines interlace with darker backstories, the way minor chords color a major progression. Coke traces once dusted mirrored dressing room tables, yet round kicks burned the tremors away. Needle rumors circulated after bleary interviews, but grappling drills flushed angst out like sweat under hot stage lights. Romantic escapades threatened to implode marriages. Instead, some singers opted for midnight kata, channeling forbidden lightning into precise heel pivots. The dojo became confession booth, stress valve, and sometimes literal lifesaver. Each practice session rewired performance itself. Willie's fingerstyle runs trace the same spirals Gong Quan uses for joint rotations. Elvis's famous knee wobble mirrors Kenpo horse stances. Trace Adkins' cavernous low notes originate from diaphragm drills every Krav coach teaches. When Merle Haggard changed keys mid-set, his footwork drew on boxing pivots. When Tanya Tucker belted above the string section, her core had already survived hundreds of medicine ball throws. Even studio takes carry echoes of the mat. Glenn Campbell's metronomic strumming replicates kata cadence, and Steve Earle's gravel growl sits atop breath control exercises stolen from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yet the mythology remains half-hidden. Country marketing departments prefer cowboy cliches to black belt bragging, so press releases bury the training deep. Casual listeners assume the grit they hear comes from heartbreak, dusty highways, or liquor, never from late-night mat burns. But you can't unhear it once you know. The next time you replay Folsom Prison Blues, envision Cash tracing a wrist lock mid-riff. When On the Road Again drifts through truck stop speakers, picture Willie's hips swiveling into a perfect inside crescent. All of these stories converge on a single lesson. Country's greatest melodies owe as much to controlled violence as to poetic sorrow. When Willie strums that gentle intro, decades of iron body conditioning keep each note steady. When Elvis punched the climactic Caught in a Trap, he recruited core muscles honed by chambered kicks. When Chris Christopherson hand-delivered a song to Cash, the cassette case reportedly weighed less than the Ranger Tough handshake sealing the deal. Even production crews adapted. Lighting techs began stretching hamstrings after watching Dwight Yoakam's shadow kick before curtain. Stage managers instituted mat call alongside sound check, giving artists 20 minutes to roll joints, but of the skeletal variety. And when the Highwaymen toured as a supergroup, legend says they settled songwriting disputes with light contact sparring. The winner chose whose verse would be trimmed. Out in the parking lot, the night shift keeps growing. Randy Travis steps from the shadow of his tour bus, Bible verses mixing with faint bruises on his knuckles. Long before a congestive stroke bent his vowel sounds into gravel, Travis trained old-school pugilism, skipping rope until sweat dripped onto notebook paper where baritone choruses simmered. Security cams once caught him at 3 a.m. pounding combinations into a plywood wall, mouthing syllables in rhythm, left hook on 4, uppercut on given, exhale on the rhyme. Marty Stewart follows, rhinestone suit flashing like a meteor shower. Folks remember his mandolin flair, yet few know he toured with a rolled-up tatami mat, claiming the ankle torque of traditional throwing arts kept his stage jumps tight. He jokes the Opry Circle is just a giant dojo ring. Step outside it and you lose face. Step inside, and you'd best bow to every ghost who ever sang there. Rumor says he once bet a Nashville session drummer he could execute a textbook lineage without the hat leaving his head, and won. Even quieter is Jerry Lee Lewis's cousin, the late preacher-turned-picker Mickey Gilley, who rehabilitated a crushed spine by drilling Tai Chi push hands until his fingers could hammer honky-tonk octaves again. Physiotherapists filmed the sessions, slow spirals, pianist wrists turning like doorknobs, knuckles never quite making fists yet channeling the kinetic coil of a tiger ready to spring. Doctors called it a medical fluke. Mickey credited holy chai. Slide further down the alley and you'll see Charlie Pride's old sparring partner leaning against a dumpster, telling anyone who will listen that Pride's jab could blindside a metronome. In minor league locker rooms, the future Grand Ole Opry member worked speed bags for timing, then translated that staccato into velvet phrasing. Listen to Kiss an Angel Good Mornin' and hear it, a 1-2 combo disguised as a love note. Not every tale ends in triumph. Glenn Campbell's Shotokan routines weren't enough to dodge the mind fog that eventually dimmed his stage lights. Yet backstage witnesses swear his final tour rehearsals included kata sequences performed in silence, muscle memory standing guard, while memory itself slipped out the side door. Each down block locked away a forgotten name. Each rising punch rescued another measure of Wichita lineman from the disconnect. Discipline became a lighthouse when cognition turned stormy. Steve Earle re-enters, denim collar-soaked, pupils shining the way only a man in perpetual recovery can glow. He stretches a cauliflower ear, cracks a joke about jujitsu being cheaper than therapy, then traces a lyric on the concrete with his toe. The revolution starts now. Every letter matches a hip escape he drilled that morning. That's Earle's current religion. Shrug off the choke, shrimp to daylight. By now, Lower Broadway's streetlights have morphed into a midnight octagon. A city sanitation truck rolls by, but the driver slows, mesmerized by 20 aging icons shadow sparring like kung fu silhouettes. These aren't nostalgia acts, they're human Swiss Army knives, forged on sawdust stages and matted gyms, as capable of breaking boards as breaking hearts. Tourists 2 blocks over think they're hearing a bar band rehearsing. In truth, it's focus mitts popping like popcorn. As the moon slides behind a bank of clouds, Tanya Tucker calls for partners. She pairs the lanky with the stout, the nimble with the bruisers, demanding balance. Martial harmony mirrored in vocal harmony. Her own partner tonight is Chris Christopherson, who grins, wipes sweat, and jokes that Ranger School never prepared him for a 75-year-old cyclone dressed in pink leather. They circle, feint, trade light taps, respect thick enough to taste. A sudden hush ripples when a classic Cadillac eases to the curb. Out steps John R. Cash in spectral silhouette, coattails fluttering like crow wings. He taps the roof twice, the same signal prison yard captains used when the yard was about to go hot. The circle widens instinctively. Cash scans the faces of friends, rivals, and heirs. Then he drops into a low horse stance, gravel voice rumbling, "Let's make this a ring of fire for real." What follows is choreography more than combat. Jab lines crossing like chord changes, kicks slicing air in 4/4, grins flashing under neon the color of fresh bruises. Somewhere at the edge, a TikTok teen raises a phone, but Hank Jr. plucks it from her hand with a polite wrist lock before she can film and cheapen the magic. He releases, nods, and the phone returns unbroken. Lesson delivered without lecture. That's the secret code of this hidden order. Hurt less, help more. Leave proof only in the muscle tone and the music. Eventually dawn smudges the skyline, sky pinking like fresh tape on a broken nose. The impromptu dojo dissolves. Willie bows, plants palms on thighs, then leads the exodus toward coffee and sound check. Elvis tosses a sweat-soaked scarf over Johnny's shoulder. Tanya shoulder bumps Trace so hard he stumbles laughing. Earl tucks a battered mouthguard into his guitar case beside lyric sheets. Yet the street still buzzes. Because a single night of revealed discipline rewrites every legend. Fans will forever argue over high notes and chart positions, but insiders will remember quiet mornings when a kick shield thudded louder than any kick drum, when a spinal wave in Tai Chi mirrored a steel guitar gliss, when resilience wore cowboy boots. Ask any roadie who packed both amps and focus mitts. This business survives on grit masked as grace, so next festival you attend, watch the hands. Calluses on knuckles match calluses on fretboards. Count the breath cycles before a power ballad's big note. They align with pranayama counts from yoga dojo cross-training, and if a spotlight flickers mid-solo, notice how the singer shifts stance, weight balanced, knees bent, neck loose. That's not just showmanship, that's years of safety. Next time the sun climbs over the Cumberland River and spills gold across those honky-tonk marquees, remember what really happened while you slept. A covert symphony of breath counts, guard passes, and glove taps that rewrote the tempo of Music City. Maybe you'll catch a subtle clue at brunch, the way Willie rotates his shoulder blades before strumming, or how Tanya settles into a cat stance before sliding onto a barstool interview. Maybe you'll spot a faded belt knot peeking from under Glenn's old tux jacket in the museum display. Proof that rhinestones once hid GI burns. And should you wander behind a venue and find battered kick shields leaning against an amp case, touch the canvas. It's still warm from legends smoothing out the creases of age. Remember, Every chorus you hum on the drive home was hammered into shape by fists as disciplined as any black belt punch, every downbeat buffered by lungs trained to absorb both applause and body shots. And when a rookie busker down the block starts trash-talking legends for clicks, watch closely. A single raised eyebrow from Chris or a shuffle from Dwight will reset the kid's pulse quicker than any viral diss track. Respect is the first kata, silence the final bow.